Now it's recording. Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of Pop Goes the Zebra. Believe it or not, that's the second time tonight I've said that, but apparently I did not hit the record button. So this is take two of our attempt to interview one of my favorite people in wrestling, because he is just a great guy and he's got an amazing story that we're going to talk about. We're joined by Bulletproof Ben Mccoy. Ben, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
So once again, let's get right into it. Can you tell us a story of why you're called Bulletproof?
So first things first, my son came up with it. My son Gavin was the first one to say, "Hey, you're bulletproof." And so the origins start there, but the meaning behind it is a little farther back. I actually started wrestling in 2005. Wrestled with Mickey McCoy for about 5 years. Left wrestling. It was just time. It wasn't fulfilling enough, and I wasn't good for it, and it wasn't good for me at the time. Moved my whole family and decided to join the Army at 27 years old because I'm crazy.
As you do.
And decided to join the Army Infantry and be part of the 10th Mountain Division, which is light infantry, which is based out of Fort Polk, Louisiana, as well as Fort Drum, New York. And got to my duty station after graduation and was there for 13 hours before I got my orders to go to Afghanistan. I didn't even make it a day. Didn't even make it.
That's barely enough time to get anybody upset at you.
I didn't make it to the afternoon. I think it was like 11 o'clock in the morning is when I got my orders. My first day there, and I had to call my wife and be like, "Hey, I'm going to Afghanistan."
Bye.
She's like, "Really?" She's like, "Already?" And I was like, "Apparently," because I mean, it was a whirlwind.
They were just dying to meet you.
Graduated in November. I moved my whole family from Wisconsin to Louisiana in December, and I was gone in January. It was that fast. The last thing I got to do was watch the Packers win the NFC Championship that year.
All right, we're not talking about that.
Before I left,
go, Pat, go.
Before I left,
no,
for Afghanistan, I actually watched the Super Bowl that year at 2 a.m. Afghanistan time, and I was the only Packer fan in a room full of Steelers fans that year when they won it. So
what year was that? Because I got in 07. What year was that for you?
What do you mean? When I got in? Oh, I started
when you got in. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So you were a couple years before me. Okay.
Yeah, I started in 05. I went down to Brew City Wrestling in Waukesha and trained with Frank DeFalco and Matt Winchester, Beer City Bruiser from Ring of Honor. Those guys trained me, and I rode the roads with those guys. I eventually met Dysfunction and Silas Young, guys like that, and Steve Stone from Chicago area, and just kind of
Steve Stone.
Yeah, that's my dude.
Yeah.
So we kind of did all of our stuff, and I just kind of rolled with those guys. But anyways, went to Afghanistan and deployed in January of 2011. Was there for about 8 months. Fractured my ankle when I was there. The first time I got hurt, I'd fallen off the top of a truck like a dumbass, trying to get down at like 1 a.m. with a 100-pound pack on my back, and I snapped my ankle.
No.
So I snapped my ankle. They don't send me home. I kind of heal up for about, I think I was in the recovery area at the big fire operation base for about 9 days. After 9 days, they flew me back to my troops and put a soft gel cast on my broken ankle, and I was walking on my broken ankle after 9 days. and I just became the driver and the gunner in the turret, and that was my job for missions until my ankle healed up about a month later.
I love Army medicine.
Yeah, it was. I didn't even get Percocet or anything, man. I got naproxen. It's Tylenol.
No, it's
for a broken ankle.
800 milligrams of Motrin. Hydrate. Change your socks.
Yep, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it, man. That's what they gave me, and I went. Who was I? I was just some Joe showing up with a broken ankle, and they were like, "We got too many other dudes to work with." So we were there for a while, and then we had pushed through a lot of places. I was very proud of the group I was with in Afghanistan. I would go back there today with those guys. They were absolutely wonderful, excellent. I mean, we're all a bunch of shitheads, but they were excellent, and I was never in fear of my life with the guys I had beside me. They were top-notch professionals, and I was always safe with my brothers. I can say that for sure. They were absolutely wonderful, and they're the reason I'm here. In a lot of ways, because in August we got a mission that was particularly nasty. We had heard about this mission kind of through the airwaves weeks beforehand of like, somebody's going to get this shit job and it's going to
the
suck.
offline grapevine,
and like nobody wants to go do this. And I think it was like about 8 or 9 days after we heard about that, all of a sudden they came down the wire that Patriot 6 and 7 were coming. And the big brass never came out by us because we were on a COP, which is a, for people who don't know, there's different acronyms for places you stay. If you stay at a FOB, which is a fire operating base, it's very nice. They have laundry, they have Mongolian grill night, and they have a smoothie bar for you. I mean, it's you are as safe can be. When you're at a COP or a command operating post, it is not anything like that. It's much more water bottle showers because you have no running water.
Extreme Lost in the Woods.
Only there's no woods. It's Afghanistan's funny, man. It's a complete flat land and then mountains. I mean, it is. I mean, you could roll a quarter down a highway probably 20 miles before it tipped over. It's as flat can be. And then out of nowhere, here's this 11,000 foot mountain that you're just like staring up at, and it's just one of those, like, what did I get myself into? So anyways, we got this bad assignment in August, and I knew it was going to be bad. I called my wife, hung up the phone, called her right back, and was like, no, seriously, I love you. You need to know this. This is going to suck. And we went through the whole day. That's my kids yelling, hey, I'm doing this interview. You guys mind for 2 seconds? Thank you. Children. So we go up, and I remember we get into the valley, and we come up over this ledge, and I'm sitting in the gunner's turret, and I remember I was really excited because this was like the first full active mission I got like greenlit for after breaking my ankle, and I was ecstatic to finally, because I had been stuck in a truck doing missions. Hey, I am talking on the phone. Okay, it's right here, and the pizza's almost done. You have to wait 5 minutes. But you just ruined an interview I was trying to do because you're not.
He's fine.
Hopefully they can just edit it, but you gotta go. Like, you're kind of. Okay, well, Verona knows how to come over here and ask.
So.
Here, 1 second. I'm so sorry, man. I got to do this parenting thing. Can we pause for a second?
Yeah, we can definitely time out. Yeah, definitely.
All right, yeah.
So you were coming over the hill.
Yeah, so we came over this hill, and it was probably about 4:30 in the morning, and the sun was just kind of breaking over. And it was like out of a war movie. You come up over this hill, and here's all these tanks scattered, and they all have the Russian insignia on the side with the sickle and everything, and you're in the anchor. You're just like, what the hell? And we just kind of sat there in awe. I mean, you're sitting here looking at. Oh, very much so. You're sitting here looking at 40 years of history. Like, this is the kind of, and it makes you think like you're stupid. Like, why did I come to movies about this? They've been doing this for like 40 years. Like, they've been nonstop fighting other countries for 40 years. Why? Like, what was? And by that time, it's kind of too late. You're already there.
Yeah.
But I mean, Afghanistan was. I mean, I love the guys I was with. Like I said, they did a great. We were a great team. We got Osama bin Laden when we were there. Not my team, but Osama bin Laden was killed while I was in Afghanistan. We all had the running joke of, do we get to go home now? Which
right?
was funny for our superiors, and we were all told no very quickly.
We got him.
That wasn't the option. And then the Macho Man died while we were there, and we had Macho Man night where we all dressed up like Macho Man, and that was dope. That was some stuff. And then, like I said, so August 25th, 2011, we're in Afghanistan. We have this mission, tanks in front of us. Kids are playing on one like it's a jungle gym, and nothing happens all day, even though we were like super prepped. And we get a sandstorm at about 4:30 in the afternoon. And I was walking in the sandstorm. I just got done. We just kind of picked up working again. And I remember going to a truck to grab something, and I couldn't tell you what it was. This is where it kind of starts getting fuzzy. Right. But I went to grab something. I walked back, and I remember the bullets going down in a row, like right down my side, probably about 3-4 feet away from me, and the dirt from the ground kicking up and hitting me in the pant leg because they were so close. And then it was this really morbid game of musical chairs where we all just scattered and ran and tried to get cover as fast as possible. And you have 50 guys trying to huddle underneath about 2 feet of sandbags and not much else cover wise. And it was a hairy situation right away. We were pinned down, and it became very quickly apparent of like, hey, who do we have everybody? Where is everybody? Let's make sure that nobody's like, out on their own and about to get, killed because they're not with us. And we couldn't find one of my friends. And I remember somebody said that they had him and they knew where he was. And I remember feeling this giant sense of relief. And I was going to turn and tell my sergeant that we had found him. And the second I turned was when I heard it. And it was the bullet. And I'll never be able to describe what that sound is like, but I'll never forget that sound. And I was shot in the face by a 7.62 round, which comes out of a sniper rifle, which is about, for hunters out there, it's about a 30-06 hunting rifle type of bullet. The only reason I survived was that when it was shot from such a distance that a tumbling effect happened. And this is where the density of the lead through the motion of the air and through going through the air and over the distance and time, the weight doesn't stay distributed evenly for too long, and it winds up kicking end over end like a field goal kick with a football. And by just dumb luck, it went in completely backwards into my face, hit me right here, stopped right here. There's literally an x-ray where the bullet's like in my face, like pointing this way, like north to Ben's nose, type of stuff. Ouch. And it was, I remember everything kind of went dark and I thought I was dead. I literally thought I had died. I was inside this black space in my head where it was just me. And I thought, this is what being dead is, I guess. This is awful. And suddenly I could start hearing stuff again. I could hear the guys around me and I could hear, the sounds of gunfire and explosions and stuff. And we had started fighting back. And I give a lot of credit to my guy, Scott Keeley, for kind of keeping me down because I tried to like stand up right away, apparently. Because when I was shot by the bullet, I was laying down in a prone position and it actually lifted me up to my knees and I was knocked out and I was hunched over. I remember the first thing I saw was all the blood on my IOTV. And when I looked down, I remember it just being like almost purple. It was so dark. And I remember never seeing blood that dark before, and then realizing it was mine, instant panic, obviously.
Right.
You're like, there's a problem. I try to take a breath in. It's like I'm drinking water, like warm water. And so I spit it out. It's all blood. I spit my teeth out. I know I'm in trouble. I go and I holler for my doc. Doc Ryder was awesome. Comes over, knew exactly what to do. Starts packing my face with gauze, telling me exactly what's going on. What we got to do. My first sergeant Houston comes over like Rambo, just emptying clips, firing back at him, yells a bunch of expletives at me about how I'm a bad mamma jamma, which he did not say mamma jamma, it was something else. And suddenly in like this awkward like moment, and maybe I remember it wrong because let's be honest, I most certainly had a traumatic brain injury at the time. But the way I remember it is them asking me if I could make it down the hill because we couldn't get a litter up because we were pinned down so bad and there was red air and they wouldn't fly the helicopter where we were because we were on the top of a mountainside. Like we were completely exposed. We had no cover. And so they're like, do you want to wait for the litter? It's going to be about 45 minutes. And I remember looking at my skin and being white as a sheet, like porcelain white. And I knew I was bleeding out. I knew I was in deep shit, like no other way to say it. I was in big trouble. And in the greatest gamer charades of my life, I pointed at my first sergeant, I pointed at my doc, and I pointed at myself, and I went like this, and I pointed down, and he's like, you want to make a run for it? To which I gave the middle finger and a thumbs up, which was F yeah for let's do it. And apparently somehow between a first sergeant and an E6, the private first class made the decision to head down the side of the mountain with a bullet in his face. How that chain of command worked out, no one will ever be able to explain to me. I think it was kind of like, well, it got lost in the sauce. It's kind of dealer's choice. Like it is your face. So like, if you want to run, we'll run with you. Which I appreciated. And we ran down to the side of the hill and I tried to set up my own litter and try to put myself on my own gurney and was told to knock it off and just relax. Got sat down on the side of it, and that's when I started getting really worried because then it was like breathing was hard, staying awake was hard. I just remember being ungodly tired, just like I had just ran in a marathon for 16 hours straight and never stopped. It was like to the point where like moving my hand was like an Olympic event. It was, and that's when I really was like, that's where you get scared, man. And that's where, in a weird way, there's a lot of peace that came over me, and because it's all BS. Your life doesn't flash before your eyes. I know that all I thought about was, if I'm going to go right now, the last thing I want to see in my head is my family. And I just remember rotating between my wife and my son, my wife, my son, and my daughter over and over and over again, to just see their faces in my head. And like, if I was going to die, like that was, I just remember closing my eyes so damn tight, because if that was going to be it, like that was going to be the last thing I see, was going to be one of those three faces. I promised myself that. And go in and out of consciousness a few times. The red air doesn't clear. The F-18s come in. They drop about 8,000 pounds worth of JDAM bombs on the people that were pinning us down. So I like to think of it as they went from being in one place to several very quickly. And it's a hell of a sight, man, to see a mountain go from this to this in about 30 seconds. It's a trip. And I remember my first sergeant looking down on me as they're putting me in the helicopter, telling me, like, that's 8,000 pounds of revenge with your bleepity bleep bleep name stamped on it, if you will. And just feeling like, I don't know how that's supposed to comfort me, but thanks.
Yeah.
I couldn't say anything. And I remember getting in the helicopter, and that's where just everything goes in and out. And then the next thing I remember, I was in Fob Shank, and they were talking about doing surgery. I told them not to call my wife. I was afraid that she was going to get mad. I was like, just tell her I have a cut on my lip. To which my staff sergeant, who loves me, calls my wife and tells her I just have a cut on my lip, thinking he's fulfilling my dying wish, literally. And to that man's credit, First Sergeant like Staff Sergeant Muncie, I love him. I believe he was a first sergeant before he got out, but Michael Muncie was his name. He was absolutely awesome, one of my favorite people in the military. And he called my wife and told her I had a cut on my lip and there was nothing to worry about. And I would call her from the hospital when I was fixed up. And somehow the United States Army and the government were like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's just lie to her.
Why is
if
it
he makes it, is she really gonna know? Like, I don't know what I mean. I guess that's what the thought process was.
Why is it that staff sergeants take everything so literally?
But he was great, man. You got to understand, this guy went into the garbage, the medical waste garbage, and pulled out my dog tags, my wedding ring, my St. Christopher medal from my grandfather from World War II that he gave to me to take to Afghanistan, like everything, like all of the most important things ever, and the bullet that was in my face. And he put it all on my wrist, and he duct taped my wrist and duct taped my wedding ring, the bullet, and my dog tags to my wrist. And when I got to Texas, my wife and them unwrapped it, and it was
all there.
And that's why it's tattooed right there. That's the bullet that hit me.
Wow.
And because that's where it was when.
That's no 22 that hit you.
That's where it was. So it was crazy. But yeah, he dug through the garbage to find my stuff. Like, who does that? He had no reason to do that.
Good leadership.
That's a good brother.
Yeah. So then everything goes black, man. I wake up in San Antonio, Texas. I remember looking out my hospital window and seeing the Texas flag with the sunshine behind it, and just crying for like a good hour and a half, just openly weeping, just sobbing my ass off, because I could not believe I was alive. I thought that I had died, and this was part of the next dream of being dead. And so to wake up and then to make it, and then but then it gets hard, man. That's hard. It's hard to go from that to you got to let your kids see you, and that's hard when you're all hooked up with tubes and wires. And I mean, I had a trach in because I had lost my airway. I went critical on the plane twice from the flight from Germany to the United States. They had, I was in critical condition multiple times. They had to really work hard, and to their credit, they did an amazing job. I can't say enough about them. Anyways, they kind of just fixed me up to the point where like I was able to, you know, kind of start walking again, because I had to really learn everything. I was in the ICU for almost 2 weeks, and then after that I was in for another 2 weeks, and I mean it was bad. I mean I had massive swelling on my brain, and like I had really bad body temperature issues where I was like overheating. I mean, you know, there was a time I was like 104.5.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was to the point where they were wrapping ice packs like around my legs. I remember they would put them under my butt, stuff them in my crotch, put them on my feet, and shove them out my armpits, and put them on the back of my neck. And they would literally ice me down in my bed because I was running so hot. So it was a struggle, you know, getting, like I always tell everybody, like getting shot was easy. That's the easiest part of the whole thing. That dopamine and adrenaline and everything gets in your brain. I didn't even feel getting shot. I'll level with you. I didn't feel it. I felt no pain, none. Took a bullet right to the face. Didn't feel a thing as far as, ouch, my face, I'm injured, I'm hurt. Nothing at all. Which, if you think about it, is absolutely insane and not logical. But you know, it's been said that, you know, pain that's so excruciating, your brain will turn it off, and because it's so intense, your brain literally can't process the pain receptors, that all you can feel in the wound is heat. And I can remember feeling like my face was on fire from the bullet, and remember just feeling like it was really warm, like somebody had a warm, like a warm towel on my face. And it was literally because the pain was so intense that my body just turned off its pain receptors, and, you know, to the point where like it's such a moment of shock for your system. So, you know, we get through that, and then it was the long road, man. You know, 17 facial reconstructions on my face. I lost 60% of my jaw. You know, we had to use a bone matrix protein and cadaver bone and bone from my tibia to put my jaw back together and to put everything back in. I lost all my teeth from here to here on the bottom. So we had to work on a customized plate with guys out of Denver, Colorado, and actually mill something out of titanium. My face is literally titanium. It's not even a lie. Like there's a titanium plate in my jaw with screws drilled into the actual jawbone. And then it just, you know, there was all those. And then after that, you know, I had an issue with seizures and stuff because I was, you know, the brain healing went and took way longer. I was having pseudo seizure migraines, and I was having pseudo seizure strokes, where like my body was trying to stroke out on me, and my brain was shutting down intentionally to stop me from having a stroke, which is insane when you say it out loud. And you know, I had to revert to walking to a cane for about 1.5 years after I got out, and you know, it was a long road back. And I remember it wasn't until you know, the time came for me to make my decision if I was going to stay or go. And staying made no sense, and going made a lot. You know, I'm not a desk guy. I wasn't going to be some dude that they could just have push papers around in a uniform for the next 20 years. That's just, I knew I was good at one thing. That was the job they gave me. And if I wasn't going to do that, I wasn't going to stay. So we left, and through a freak bit of luck, wound up having the opportunity to move up to Wisconsin from San Antonio, Texas, because we were stationed at Brady Medical Center. Again, everybody there is phenomenal. It's, in my opinion, it's the best military base in the United States. I don't think anybody comes close for me. The doctors there are absolutely phenomenal, the staff. And you know, they have the Warrior Family Support Center that they have there, which is so key to my mental health and to the mental health of everybody.
Was that Wilford Hall?
No, it's actually the WolfSac is actually the Warrior Family Support Center. It's civilian ran. It's on post on Brooklyn Army Medical Center.
Okay.
And this place is phenomenal. It is literally a giant resource center. They have a video game room for guys that have video games. They have a full scale library. They have a commons area. They have a kitchen where they serve meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for all the guys every day. And then they have classes where guys can learn trades. They have like a mechanics class. They have a leather tooling class. They have, you know, I mean, they have, what was the other one? They had how to work on your resume classes, and they had how to apply for college classes. I mean, they had life skill classes for you. And on top of that, they were in connection with everybody around around the area. So, the San Antonio Spurs worked with them so that we would get to go see the games for free. WWE worked with them for a while. I remember we got free tickets to SmackDown the night that Del Rio won the belt from Big Show. And we were there to go see that. And, and they had so much help for us there. I can remember when we were struggling money wise, because it's hard when you are transitioning out. They helped us with gas cards and Walmart cards and just little things, odds and end things to help us out and get through the weeks and stuff. And, the criminal thing about it is that when you're retiring from the military, or especially when you're medically retiring from the military, the process is so overwhelmed. The staff is overwhelmed. The agents and the counselors and the people that work for the company, that work for not only just the Army but the private companies that help you get out and transition out of the military are just overtaxed. And I was fast tracked. I was told I was fast tracked. I was told, because I was 100% disabled, retired. They had no intention of keeping me. It was a done deal. They were going to put me to the front of the line. Even with being put to the front of the line, it took 18 months for me to get my first VA paycheck. 18 months. By the way, when I got out of the military, I got out in July. I didn't get my first paycheck from the VA until December. After I was out. So I had from July until December, where the only income I had was $1,300 from the Army. My $1,300 PFC pay was the only thing I got, with a family of 5, at the time, soon to be 6, because my wife was pregnant. We didn't know. And we're retired. It's like, I'm retired. I can't go work like at the time, like especially physically at the time. There was no way. There was just way too much stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just it was rough, man, and I think that's the biggest thing that I look back on, that I hope that, especially like when we talk about stuff with Frontline and stuff, that's the goal, is to get that transition period fixed. I think so many of the veteran suicides and things like that would be fixed because of that. Now we get to how Bulletproof, to now that I've told you my whole life story by answering one question, this will be the shortest interview you ever asked. You'll say I asked him one question, he talked for 3 hours, and that was the interview. But in 2013, I bought a wrestling ring because I wanted to just see the guys. I just wanted to see my buddies again. I had nothing to do. I think it was a 9-week period, 6 or 9 weeks or something like that, where I didn't leave my house. And when I say I didn't leave my house, I mean I did not open my door to go out to my front porch to leave my house in 6 weeks. Nothing. And to the point where my wife was like, "You need to go do something." and I think it was like something where I was like, she said that, a couple weeks went by, and then I was like, "Hey, I think I might buy this wrestling ring. It's for sale. It's the first ever wrestling ring I ever was in it myself. Like, it's the first ring I ever bumped in. Like, how great would that be? Serendipity, whatever." And she instantly said yes, and I totally thought she'd say no. And she's like, "You need a hobby. You're driving me nuts. Get out of this house." God bless her. God bless her. So I bought a wrestling ring. I rented it for about a year. And then in 2014, the chatter kind of comes back from my buddies like, "Hey, Ben, you're kind of in shape. And, hey, Ben, you could probably do this." Or, "Hey," and I think it was, we set up the ring, and I think I just ran the ropes once just to test the ropes. I mean, I wasn't trying to be stupid or screw around. I was literally just honestly not thinking anybody was watching. We've had the ring for almost a year at this point.
Just you in a garage, just trying some things.
It wasn't even that. We were at a show. It was before the show, and everybody was just kind of hanging out. And I was just like, we were tightening up the ropes right before showtime, and then before the doors opened, and I hit the ropes. And just remember, I turned around, and there's like 9 dudes standing at the bottom of the ring, all just looking up at me, and my bride, remember Chase kind of leading them, being in the asshole, and like they do the soul clap and they're the "you still got it" chant and just the dumb stuff, and then I was, from that point on, I was basically screwed. And then it was a lot of sadists messaging me and being like, "You should do this. You could do this." And luckily for me, Dave Hero and GLCW took a chance on me. It's funny. I actually shot the idea of coming back to other places and was just flat out told no. Was flat out told I was way too much of a risk. There was no way in hell they'd take that chance with my face. And this is a place where I'm like, man, you've had guys come back and work for you after they broke their neck and their backs.
Yeah.
And like, what? But again, it is what it is. But luckily for me, Dave Hero, who was a good friend of mine, believed in me, had my back, was awesome. And, I just remember telling him what I wanted. And I just said, I need to know that there's something that Afghanistan didn't touch. I need one thing. I need one thing that I had from before that isn't different. And all I could think of was wrestling. And, Dave could see that this was a lot more than me just wanting to wrestle on a show. And he gave me the moon. I mean, the next thing I know, after that, it was like a whirlwind. It was like the next thing you know is Bulletproof Ben McCoy. And I remember I had to come up with a name because we were going to wrestle, me and Sadis for Dave at GLCW. And I'm like, what, Gavin's like, you should be bulletproof because you got shot and you didn't die. And I was like, that's a great idea. This is, God, he'd hate me now about it. He's 17 now, and now he's a wrestler now. So
yeah,
so it's so funny how full circle. He's going to be 18 in a month. And this is, oh my God, this is 6 years ago. So he was like 12, like 12 or 11. And he was all about it, and it was so funny. And Dave, like I said, gave us the moon. The next thing you know, I'm getting interviewed by Mean Gene Okerlund. We're setting up this story with Al Snow, and suddenly we're the only two local guys on Blizzard Brawl. So here's Blizzard Brawl, this giant show that I've never been on. The closest I ever got was I got to do the NWO versus DX show, where it was the Outlaws against the Outsiders. I got to wrestle Dread on that show, and we had this wonderful ICW World Title match, and it was great. And for a long time, it was the best match I ever had. So I always wanted to get back there because I knew that we could do something special. And for me, picking Sadis as my opponent, like Dave gave me the moon. He was like, anybody you want to work, however much time you want, whatever story you want, you just tell me what you want, we'll do it. And there was nobody else but Sadis that could fill that role for me. Steve and I have known each other from before pro wrestling. We knew each other from backyard wrestling, we met each other at a Best Buy in Wausau, Wisconsin, looking at wrestling DVDs. And I was working, stocking the wrestling DVDs, and he was buying them. And here we are 17 years later, and we're still best pals. He's the godfather of one of my daughters. He was in my wedding, and that's my dude, man. And he's my brander for Frontline. He did everything Frontline you see graphics wise. It's all him. He does all of our posters, all of our logos and branding. And I think we got the best in the Midwest. I challenge anybody. And I'll even say that includes AAW and freelance and everybody else. I challenge anybody to match our artistic stuff, poster wise and artwork wise. It's awesome. He does a phenomenal job, and we're lucky to be working with him. But we have this match. We're about to have this match, and I remember we get to Blizzard Brawl, and Dave goes, "You got to go see your agent." And I'm like, "You have us an agent?" He's like, "Yeah, you have an agent." I was like, "Dave, you told me I can have anything I want. I don't want an agent. I don't want it. You're gonna want this agent." I'm like, "Dave, I don't want to do this. This is, come on, you're kind of yanking the rug out from under me. You promised me that I could call my stuff and do stuff with Steve, and we have this whole match planned out, and now you're telling us we have an agent. We got to go through everything and redo it all." And he's like, yeah, that's he's in the back of the corner. He's waiting for it. He's wearing the white sweater. I was like, who is he? And he goes like, you'll know him when you see him. Just go. And I'm just like, I'm pissed. Steve is all cool about it. He's like, oh, let's just go talk to him. And I'm like, this is bullshit. This is not what we signed up for. Blah, 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 blah. We open the door, and it's freaking Ricky Steamboat. And we're just like, and I'm like, it's got to be somebody else. And Steve goes, no, it's the guy with the white sweater in the corner. He's the only guy there. And I'm like, no.
How can you be angry at that point?
Our guy has to be in the bathroom because it can't be Ricky Steamboat. There's no way. And I remember we walk up to him, and he goes, are you the vet? And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, yes, sir, I am. He goes, thank you for your service. Shakes my hand. He goes, I appreciate everything you did. And he really went out of his way. It wasn't one of those half-ass thank yous. Like, he was really cool about it. And he goes, tell me what you got. And we ran everything by him, and he goes, that's a good story. And I just remember going, holy crap. Like the 6-year-old in me is just marking out, and it's like, I watched you at WrestleMania 3, and it was the best thing ever. But I really did enjoy your work with Rude and WCW way more than Macho Man stuff. Point being, I stayed off topic, and I didn't talk to him about any of that. And he walks through, and he talks to us about what he would do. And man, I think we changed everything he asked for. I think we maybe said no to one thing, which was the he wanted the punch to be the last thing Steve did to the jaw. And we wanted to be the first thing that like Ben's in trouble, that he should have never done this. We wanted to create that moment of peril. And that's, I think, the only thing we don't listen to. Everything else we listened to, we're like, sure, whatever you want, just tell us. And it was a crazy night. And then I did what anybody would do. I wrestled my best friend. We had a wonderful match. You know, I got to work in front of 2,000 people in the Waukesha County Expo Center. It was,
I think I've been there before.
My daughters got to watch me for the very first time. You know, that's the first match they ever got to see. I got to have a wonderful moment with them in the ring afterwards, where they hugged me, and you know, everybody's crying, we're crying, the fans are crying. Everybody's crying. It's a great night. And then I did what anybody did, and I retired again. and I didn't wrestle for a year. And I think the bug was planted that night. You know, I got to the, you know, I think about 6 months happened, where 6 months went by after the Dave show. It was about my birthday that the next year, and the chatter started again. And then it was like Nathan Gus got a hold of me from Wisconsin Pro Wrestling, and they were like, "Hey, we want to give you an offer. Like, we think you should come in and do this because we think you'd be great." And I was just like, I don't know. and somehow I got roped into doing it. And I remember the main reason was, originally when I came back, I was supposed to wrestle Brock Hall, not Sadist. And we weren't able to get that done. And I always felt bad, because I felt like I slighted Brock, because that was supposed to be his match, and we weren't able to do it. So in 2016, and in February of 16, I came back, or January 23rd, 16, I came back full time. And I've been rolling down the road ever since with Bulletproof Ben McCoy. And
that's about where I think we bumped into each other too.
Yeah, we bumped into each other. Dude, you bumped into me. Oh my God. My second year back was crazy, because I think we met in, what was it? It was,
you know, it's a little
17,
fuzzy.
17,
yeah,
18.
Something like
like
that.
The end of 17, right? Yes. The end of 17 is when Scarpone started booking my ring for WrestleFest. Yeah. And then in 18 is when I went in with Blacklist. And me and Tristan and Conway all worked together.
I gotta get Tristan Hayes on here.
You want to talk about missed opportunity? That group was great. I really, I'm not to talk shit about anybody, but man, how do you fumble the ball with that? There was so much potential.
Well, you know, the same hands that fumble the ball also are the same hands that carried the cash till to the airport. But we won't go there.
I was attempted to be paid in. I was the last time I ever worked with that company. They tried to pay my wife in guardrails while I was wrestling in Japan on my second tour.
I remember that.
My wife calls me, and she's like, "Ben, I don't know what to do. They're trying to pay me in guardrails," and I went, "Well, how nice are the guardrails?" And she goes, "They're absolute pieces of shit." And I was like, "Well, then no, go get the money." and they shorted my wife $100, and I flew back, and I was so pissed. And they gave her no help. Like, her and my one friend tore down almost the whole ring. Alonzo helped out a little bit, and like I think you helped out. Like, a couple people like pitched in here and there, but they had like no help and were kind of stranded. And about a month and a half later, I saw the guy, and he gave me the $100 that he shorted me, and he made it right. Yep. That was cool. But yeah, I was attempted to be paid in guardrails once. I can lose it. I've been paid in my entranceway. I bartered that, man. That was a couple of ring rentals for a company in Wisconsin. I was like, "Hey man, give me the entranceway. I'll rent my ring to you for this price or whatever." And they were like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And I was like, "Cool." So bartering happens.
Hey, you know, the barter system is alive and well in professional wrestling.
That's always will be. If they take that from us, they're taking everything.
So let's get into Frontline Pro. That's another really good story that deserves to be told. I had the pleasure of being included on the roster for that first show you ever did, and it's still one of my favorite moments in wrestling. Let's talk about its creative conception and the vision you had and where you're at with it now.
Oh my God, it wasn't even supposed to be a thing. I can honestly tell you it was the happiest of accidents as to how it happened and how we're here now, and we're 2 weeks away from our 25th show is it's like I blinked and I missed it all. Like, it was just it feels so fast. Originally, I was the booker in Wisconsin Pro Wrestling in Green Bay. I took over the book in 17 from Nathan Gust. They had a bad falling out with their ownership, and I knew getting in bed with the ownership that was there at the time that I was taking a risk. I had heard the stories, and I thought, well, he's giving me what I want. I told him as long as he plays fair with me, I'll play fair with him, and it's cool. And for a long time it worked. It was fine. And then slowly but surely the relationship deteriorated. A lot of things that were easy became hard, and a lot of decisions that were mine became his, and it very quickly became what I didn't want to sign up for. It ultimately led to me leaving in 2018. I remember I quit. We did a big super show, which was we did the 20th anniversary show, and the 20-year anniversary. And I did the 20th anniversary show, and I remember I lost the belt to Joey Avalon in the main event, and I walked up to the owner after the show and tried to part ways amicably as possible. But he was an independent wrestling promoter. I'm a professional wrestling promoter. I think you can understand why there was differences to be had after that. And then I flew to Japan. I was gone. Me and GQ, me and Yanni, we went to Japan. Like, God, it was like 10 days after I quit. It wasn't even like, we didn't have, like, I just remember there was never even like a moment to like call and say, hey, is this really what we want to do? Can we save this? Can we fix this? And there was just really nothing at that point. And it was so funny because, Frontline, it became a thing where I had run WPW for about a year and a half. I was getting really we weren't in a bad place yet, but we weren't in a good one either. We were kind of in that weird, awkward stage where nobody really knew how to talk to each other. And I remember my friend Brady Oberg passed away, and unfortunately he took his own life. I've had 15 guys since 2014 that have committed suicide that were in Afghanistan or in basic training with me. And I remember talking to his widow, Katie, and Katie's such a sweet person and a great woman. And, I remember, I didn't sleep a lot. And after she lost Brady, she didn't either. And I told her I was so sorry about her loss. And we just our families kind of just melted together to the point where me and my wife drove, 9 hours from Kenosha all the way up to like 6 hours. It was even longer. I want to say it was like probably 10 hours. Because it was literally, we drove like 4 hours north of the Twin Cities to go meet his family in the middle of nowhere in this place called Ulen, Minnesota. And it's literally, man, it's one of those places where there is absolutely nothing but this town, a high school, a water tower, and then the giant ass feed mills with the big feed mill crates. You know what I'm talking about? The big silos.
Yeah.
And then there's and then they're like triple layered all the way across, and they run all the way down. And like, that's the town's lifeblood. That is Ulen, Minnesota. There's one way in, there's one way out. There's one paved highway, and that's it.
I remember.
Yeah. So Brady passed away, and I remember I just wanted to do something. They had come up with the Brady Oberg Legacy Foundation, and I told my wife, I was like, God, I just wish we could do something for him. And I was like, what if we did wrestling? What if we did a show? And I was originally going to like pitch it to WPW and do everything for there. And I was like, I don't want to do it with them. This is my buddy. I want to do it with me by myself. And originally it wasn't even a titled project. It was just I was at the gym and I was like, I'm going to run this show. I'm going to do this. And in 3 days, it went from, I'm going to do this to, I have a company called Frontline Pro Wresting. We're going to work with nonprofit veteran organizations and raise funds for them, as well as any other local community charities that we can raise funds for. And, we're going to be the first wrestling company to not run the same venue every single month. We're going to take the show on the road. We're going to help out different communities, as many different communities as we can. And we're going to be different. We're going to be the alternative to what everybody else sees when they go. And this is no offense, but like, you go to like, and this can be said about a lot of places. You go to one Chicago area show, you've seen them all. I mean, it's a very similar formula between all the companies. There's variants. Don't get me wrong; they're different. They're not none of them are carbon copy the same, but they all follow a very specific formula. Wisconsin, the exact same thing can be saying. There's a very specific formula that's followed by a lot of different promotions. That is very like, here's this, and now we set up for next month. We run more of a UFC style. It's much more of a shoot. It's much more about competition. It's much more based on characters and enjoying the moments than it is on setting up the next big story, which is kind of weird in today's era, because the only thing we do build is long stories. We don't build short burns. There is nothing where, hey, you saw the show last month. they're going to do the big match this month, and then there's nothing happening there. And next month they're going to fight each other in a steel cage, and it's all over. We don't follow that formula. We are very much on the long burn formula. I mean, our last two champions were 476 days and 497 days respectively. That's pretty impressive for a heavyweight championship reigns for the first two. I mean, and then we had one, and then the only other champion that we had is from Japan, and he held it for the 2 days that he was here in North Chicago, and then dropped it back on the 4th of July after a 2-day reign. But I mean, the American wrestlers we have, and we just crowned our third ever American champion, our fourth champion overall with Cody Jacobs, a couple of Saturdays ago when we came back with Justice for All. And anyways, the whole point was to do this thing with Brady Oberg. I went back to my hometown of Spencer. We ran it at the kids group. We raised a great amount of funds for him. We raised $1,500 for his thing there. It was great. We split all the tickets right down the middle. So half of the tickets went to him and his family. The other half went to us. And then we gave them the raffle, and we tried to make money for them with food and all these other things. And they gave us t-shirts, and they were awesome. And we just, we did a great job, and it was a wonderful show. I wound up wrestling the best match to this day, the best match I've ever wrestled, which you can find on YouTube. It's actually on YouTube with commentary and editing and everything. It's a 2-camera shoot. And you can find that on, you type in Ben McCoy and Frontline Pro or Ben McCoy and Sadist, you'll find it real quick. And that was 3 years ago. We have our 3-year anniversary coming up here on the 20th. It's our 25th overall show. It's in my hometown of Spencer. And then 2 weeks after that, I'm wrestling RVD, in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and finishing a movie with him. And it's if you would have told the 7-year-old me that this would be my life at 37, I would have been like, awesome. Can we fast forward? Can we just get there? Because that would be great. And I was really lucky though with Frontline. I had a lot of people I could go to. Mondalucha, we're in the hat. Jay Gilkey is amazing. He was, his formula, the way he worked with fans, the way he did business, I was just in awe of for so many years working for him. And when I had questions, he always answered his phone. Dave Hero always answered his phone. I'll even say Hornswoggle, ACW, and Nick Colucci, those guys always answered their phones for me. And always helped me out and took care of me with, and we're very supportive. There wasn't a lot of backlash. There wasn't a lot of people who were like, this is stupid, you shouldn't do this. And, one show became a couple of them, and then it was just going to be left at that. And unfortunately, sometimes life, bad things happen. And my cousin was killed by a drunk driver while designated driving, and only was about a mile from his house when it happened. And so we created one of our most important shows, which is Night for Tyler. Which is for Tyler Monty, who's my cousin who passed away. We run this with his family every year, and it's been amazing. We raised $5,300 on the first event for the family for this Tyler Monty Scholarship Fund. We raised $6,500 the second year, and then even with COVID last year, we did $4,400.
Yeah,
so we raised over $15,000 for that one charity. And we've loved it, man. We just did Justice for All 2 weeks ago. We raised $689.27 by just passing buckets around to our fans. Like, that's how much our fans care. That's how wonderful they are. We raised $689 for Patriots for Warriors, which is an awesome nonprofit motorcycle club that helps the guys pay their bills and get to their appointments and get groceries and keep their electricity on. And Donk is his name. They all got great names. Donk and Breacher. Breacher's the president over there, but Donk is our dude. We love that guy. They were wonderful to work with, and we're going to work with them again. And it just kind of we wound up getting Stevens Point, and we kind of had all these local shows. And then the next thing you know, Backwoods Brown, who's a good friend of ours, was like, why don't you bring this to Chicago? And I was like, sure, man. So on a whim, I called Great Lakes Naval Station in North Chicago, and just thinking I was going to be completely laughed at, and ran out of the building. And I remember telling my wife before I walked outside. I remember I walked right out those doors right over here behind this camera that you see. And I walked outside, and I made the call thinking they're going to laugh me out of this phone call. This is going to take about 30 seconds. They're going to be like, pro wrestling? Yeah, okay, bye. And the next thing you know, we have a contract and a deal to do 6 shows in 3 days on their Rock, White, and Blue Fest. And Colt Cabana's coming and helping us. And Colt's always been amazing. He's one of the first. I will say that about Colt Cabana. He was one of the first dudes to come and do Frontline when we were nobodies. I mean, we're talking show number 3, and Cabana was there for show number 3 and had our backs, and wrestled 2 out of the 3 days for us and just kicked butt and was great. And I cannot say enough good things about that guy. Saved the day for us because we didn't have any big names or anything. We had Japanese wrestlers coming over from Japan. And that was the big thing that we were selling. And so we didn't have any like local names or not even local names. Just like I say local because he's from Chicago. I'm not belittling him. I promise. Like but he is local. He's from Chicago. But like we had no big names, and he's a huge name, obviously, even now with AEW. And so to have Cabana have our back and be awesome like that was, I mean, we didn't deserve that. We didn't do it. Like I remember he put me on his podcast, and I'm like, man, I don't deserve this. Like he interviews all these kick-ass cool dudes that actually have cool stories, and I'm just like some J-bro from Wisconsin. So it was really neat. And now here we are, and it's been a whirlwind. But I remember we did the very first show, and that's where I met the director for Still Here, Eric Beach, and that's how we wound up with Rob Van Dam as our executive producer for the movie with Tim Abel, and now we're gonna hopefully have this movie out next year. And the last big filming comes up in less than a month when me and Rob Van Dam fight. And it's been like this 3-year odyssey trying to film this thing because we were supposed to fight, and I shatter my leg 5 weeks before I'm supposed to wrestle Rob. I literally at night for Tyler, my cousin's show, I jump off the top rope, I go through a table, the table doesn't break, my foot drives into the mat, and my fibula punches through my kneecap, through all of my cartilage and all of my meniscus and everything that was there, onto the top of my tibia bone here, and shatters my tibia bone into pebbles, like crushes.
Ouch.
So where like they have to scoop it out. They slap a plate on the side. I get 5 screws through my leg. I'm out for a year. Rob is gone. It's just like, I just remember being in that hospital and never feeling so low in my life. It was just like the all-time gut punch of gut punches. And then finally I rehab my butt off. I'm going to be back in 6 months instead of 10. I'm pushing it way too hard. And we're 4 weeks away from wrestling, and we get hit with the pandemic. And wrestling halts and ceases to exist for basically all of 2020. So it's like anything that could have went wrong on this journey so far has. And so it's all very much like I'm terrified because like we're gonna buy his plane ticket tomorrow to like fly them into the media and stuff. And you're like,
nothing but cardio.
Yeah, oh dude, I remember, and then my son is like, well, you should scout him, like you do all your other guys. Because every time I wrestle anybody in independent wrestling or in the indies, I look them up on YouTube. I want to see what I'm getting into if I don't know who they are or if I've just met them a couple times. And I did the worst thing I could have ever done, and I listened to a 17-year-old kid who doesn't know his butthole from his elbow, and I decided to watch RBD, and I did like. When you go on the WWE Network and you watch it, it's really hard not to start off with the greatest hits. And so I watched this and I completely psyched myself out because it's him and Jerry Lynn at Living Dangerously 99.
Of course.
And it becomes vastly apparent to me that I am way out of my depth on so many levels. And I just remember almost having a panic attack and just completely freaking out. And my son's like, well, Dad, he's not that old anymore, or he's not that young, like he's not gonna go that crazy with you. You don't know, like. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're probably right. Like, he probably wants to have a good chill match or whatever. And so then I fast forward 7 years, and I watch him beat John Cena in the middle of the ring at a one night stand in the Hammerstein Ballroom. And man, we want to talk about white hot. I don't want to call it heat because it wasn't heat. He was over. White hot being over. White hot babyface. Oh my God, when he's on his knees and his arms are stretched out and that place is coming unglued. And I'm like, that man beat John Cena in the middle of the ring in his prime. What am I doing with my life? And yet, to be honest with you, he has been absolutely nothing but like the coolest dude through this entire process. Through breaking my leg, through a pandemic. He's never like, this guy could have lost my phone number 3 years ago and just been like, you know what, this isn't worth it. And yet I talk to him all the time. We're at the point of sending gifts, so that's fun.
There you go.
But he's been great, and he genuinely cares about the product of doing Still Here, which is basically a story of my life and how wrestling basically what we're talking about, how Frontline kind of took over and how we got to where we were, and how, you know, wanting to combat my own PTSD and my own inner demons with pro wrestling, which is definitely what pro wrestling is for me. It's a cathartic outlet. It's always been that for me. I think it always will be. That's not to say I'm going to do it forever. You know, I'm a realist. My body is not what it used to be. You know, I'm on my 16th year of doing this, man. Like,
oh man,
it's been a minute. So luckily for me, I had my little 4-year hiatus, Shawn Michaels style. So that's nice. And not that I'm anything like Shawn Michaels. I'm sure somebody's going to listen to this and be like, oh my God, he compared himself to Shawn. Did you hear that egotistical prick? What a dick. Like, what a dick. They're going to be so upset. I can tell right now. Don't let anybody in Chicago listen to this.
Oh Lord.
I'm just kidding. I get along with everybody there. You know, well, I think so anyway. I don't know of anybody that hates me. I love Bryce Benjamin and Jazz. Like, those are my dudes.
I love those guys. I'll tell you what, sidebar here. Anytime I'm up there at Freelance or Freelance Underground and they're there, I intentionally make sure my bag is at least within earshot of them, because I will be entertained all night. I could be like mourning the loss of a loved one. You put me near Jazz and Benjamin and Marche, throw him in there too. Yeah. Oh, dude, I'm having a great time at that point. You know, those guys
I got really lucky for a minute, and me and Tristan got booked into a little program for Berwyn.
Yeah.
Championship with Jazz and with Bryce, and I just remember being so excited because I actually met Bryce on my very first night in pro wrestling, way back in September 17th of 2005. I met Bryce Benjamin for the very first time. He was in a group called Sex and Violence with Justin Dredd, Bobby V, Mason Quinn, Dysfunction, and oh my God, there was somebody else. I can't remember who it was.
You're gonna get
Gina was in it. Hot Gina was in there with them as like their manager, and Joey Eastman. And I'll never forget that because Joey Eastman came out to Wilson and Phillips' Hold On. And I just remember being in awe of this bald, out of shape munchkin running out in front of everybody. Yeah, I hope he listens to this. I'm just gonna be so mad. I really hope I love him. I love him to death. Joey is literally one of my favorite people in the world. Every time he says stuff on the internet, it's gold. But I watched this man walk out to Wilson and Phillips like he was coming out to Stone Cold's theme song. I mean, that man had a purpose and a walk and a strut. And I just remember being in awe of him the first time I ever saw him, thinking, Jesus, this guy has some balls. I have no idea how he could do this. I could never do that. And yeah, that's the first time I ever met those guys.
Man,
Next question. Who do you have heat with, Ben? Oh my God, the list is long. Just kidding.
Well, if you have heat with them, that you can tell if you have heat with them based on the quality of the guardrail.
Yeah. Oh,
wow.
And that got squashed. That was cool. Like, we got squashed after a minute, you know, and it was what it was. I mean, there's been worse than
that's
that.
Great.
Man. There's been worse. Like that's like on the grand scale of things that have happened to me in the past in wrestling. Like, that's way down in like the lower middle half. I'd rather talk about coming in the Blitz on the first night, wrestling the champion who used to dress like he was a 40s Irish boxer, and he gave me 2 moves in the entire match and told me I should be thankful. This is after he buried Donovan Dijak and JT Dunn and Marty the Moth and every other guy that Blitz brought in at the time.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
and that was my big debut. I got to wrestle the heavyweight champion in like not even the main event, and I got buried for about 10 minutes.
Oh, of course.
That's life. There's your hot scoop. There's
our hot take.
But that also comes from a wrestler who shoved my kid shoot style at Six Flags to get heat and left a visible mark on him. So
I love the Six Flags shows. I don't do enough Six Flags shows. I love the Six Flags shows.
I've never done one.
They're wonderful.
I do.
It's a great time. I mean, they're hot. Oh
yeah.
they're too hot. They're too hot. There's been some doozies, man.
I did a couple of them, and one time we had the run of like the lazy river and the water park and all that. I am out there, kid you not. I've got my gear on, but underneath that, I've literally got my swim trunks on. So you get to the main event because it's like a couple matches, like broken up in segments throughout the day.
Yeah.
I get to the like out there for like this because I smartened up from the first one that I was going to do at the second. I get to the main of the second one. 1, 2, 3. Ding ding, raise the arm. I immediately dive out of that bastard, strip right there in the middle of the crowd, and boom, right into the lazy river. Because it was 4th of July, dude.
I completely believe you. I mean, there's hot, and then there's sweltering.
I did a 4th of July show last year, and it was 105 outside. The ring had been set up for hours. We had a dark blue canvas, so the canvas was probably what 130, 140.
You can cook on it.
I'm in my ref gear, except I wear a black and red polo, so I'm wearing 90% black, and I couldn't stand still in the ring because I could feel the heat on the bottom of my feet burning. And I would go down to count, and I had burns on my arms. And I will never. I just no.
That's like that Ashton firefighter picnic that we do for Dave here every year in July, and it's always hot, and we have a black canvas, and so it's like
naturally.
You know, you always hope for like decent weather, but it's always too hot, so it's always like, hey man, when you bump, just roll out. like nobody's asking you to be a hero,
or just or accept defeat and just douse yourself in butter.
I felt so bad because the first match, somebody goes to do a dive, and the guy on the outside is going to do an uppercut to cut him off, and he hits the ropes, and I just hear this loud crack. The turnbuckle breaks. So the guy tumbles to the asphalt and is just laying there on the hot asphalt. I roll out to check on him. He's like, start counting. I'm like, no, get up. He's wanting me to count him while he's on the ground because he wants to make a dramatic like save. And I'm like, dude, you're getting burned. Get up.
Yeah. Oh my God. We had a close call like that. Speaking of the Ashipin, I was working with Ken Anderson, and we were in this tag match. And I remember I shot him through the ropes, and I mean, we were hot. Oh my God, were we hot? I mean, we had doused ourselves in water. We were so hot. And I shot him into the ropes, and Ken almost went through the middle and top rope, like to the floor, like caught himself Spider-Man style like this. Lucky enough. And like I remember I shot him, and he grabbed there, and I grabbed his boot. And that's all I could grab. And it's this really awkward moment where like I have his ankle. He's got the top rope here and the middle rope down here, and we're just staring at each other. You're just like, what do you do?
Grab a hold.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm about 95% sure that's about where it went. But no, man, it just like Frontline's been amazing. But I just, you know, I mean, if we're going to talk about Frontline at all, I got to say this, and I know this is going to sound so obligatory, and people are going to be like, oh my God, we get it. But like, I am so lucky. I got to love with you, man. I'm very, very fortunate to have the people I have around me. I have people around me I do not deserve in my life, like friends and supporters and sponsors and partners like my wife, Crystal, that I don't deserve. Like Frontline wouldn't be anything without the people around it that help make it what it is. I mean, it's Steve Guru with all of our branding and all of our logos and all of our posters. And I've told you this, like, I think we have the best stuff in the Midwest. I'll put up our Frontline stuff against anybody in the Midwest. Hell, I'll put our stuff up against anybody in America, in North America. I would, maybe we don't win, but man, we're going to finish up there because our stuff is great. I mean, we're at the point now where we have like custom text, like custom font, for our posters. I mean, that's next level crap. You know, we're lucky to have the production team with Red Jester Productions, with Eric Beach and with Vera Volta. Those guys are amazing and have, you know, we have 4K quality stuff because of that.
There you go.
You know, which is top notch. And, you know, and then down to the wrestlers. I mean, but we have like our sponsors are amazing. We are 100% sponsored through the community. Every show we go to is paid for by our sponsors in our community, so that we never run a show off a gate. Every single penny, every single expenditure is counted for before we run our show. We will never ever miss a payday on a wrestler. We can safely guarantee all of our money to anybody that comes and works for us at any time. And more importantly, the reason we do it is because it's a lot of our community's way of helping us raise funds for those places. Because you have to remember, places like, for our example, this show that we have coming up with Spencer Kids Group, they're taking the beer money and we're giving them half the tickets. We're selling tickets for $10. We get $5 a ticket. They get $5 a ticket. We get the food. They get the beer. We split it 50-50 and we help them as much as we possibly can. And I mean, we've raised, thousands of dollars for this kids group, which is a place that I went to when I was a kid. And to be in the situation that we are, it's only because of the people that we work with. We have a great relationship with Jeremiah Evers in the USO. They have been absolutely wonderful with us. Chris Stom and the Holiday Inn guys have been top notch, to the point where now we're expanding through our Holiday Inns with more hotel shows. It's kind of weird. Like, it's almost like being a lounge singer, but instead I'm pro wrestling in in hotels. So I'll take it. It's nice to do a ballroom show. I know, right? It's nice to do a ballroom show and then just walk to your hotel room.
I've done a few motel shows.
Oh, yeah.
I know how those can go.
Yeah. How was your experience, Ben? Did you like them? Some of them are good. Some of them are weird.
We used to do TV tapings in Metropolis, Illinois, and we would do it at the Baymont, which was right next to where the casino was. And a lot of us would stay at the Baymont. So we would be done at the ballroom and then walk across to our room, go change, and then go into like this nothing town to do nothing because there was nothing to do in Metropolis.
Oof. Is that the one that has the Superman on the side of the road?
Yep. Oh, it's like right in the town square.
Yep, I have passed that place many times on the road.
You have basically seen the town.
That sounds like where I live.
That's awesome. Hey man, but I love stuff like that. I can still remember 2006 going to a show in where was it? It was in it was in Ohio. It was in Indiana. Where the hell did we go? I can't remember the name of the town, but all I remember is that it was the birthplace of James Dean. And I am a massive James Dean mark. I just to prove it, he only made 3 motion pictures. It was Giant, East of Eden, and Rebel Without a Cause. Just in case some people are like, oh, of course you are. But no,
Marion, Indiana.
Marion, Indiana. So we go to Marion, Indiana in a blizzard. And I have convinced Bruce City Bruiser to go and do this with Elvira.
Uh-oh. We might have lost him.
Guerrero and my buddy Scotty Pride, who's been training on February of 06. Yeah, maybe even February of 06 or something like that. It was winter, and there was points in time where we didn't know if we were driving in a field or on a road. It was interesting. And I remember we get there and we wrestle in this abandoned movie theater with no heat in front of 4 people. Ooh. I got paid $10. But we got to go to the James Dean Museum during the day, which cost $10.
There you go.
So I made $0.
But you got to go to the James Dean Museum.
Dude, they had his high school basketball jersey there and like a couple other things and like his desk and shit. Like, it was cool. It was worth it. But I'm just saying those small town shows are so fun. And I think that's why I like running smaller towns. I mean, we run places like Marshfield and Spencer, Stevens Point where we're doing the RVD show is probably our biggest show, which is in the Wausau area in Wisconsin, which comparable to like Illinois would be like a Rockford or like a I don't even know, maybe a McHenry, a little bigger than a McHenry,
Naperville.
Like that. Yeah, like a neighbor, very much like a Naperville.
Home of the human heat machine.
Yeah, nice. Good Lord, don't get me started on that guy. Our conversations, man.
I'm trying to figure out how I am going to safely put him on this show.
There was a small point in time where I was the sounding board for Inside Al Snow's head. And there are still things he's sent me in text message form that I can't get out of my brain.
Oh God,
dude, too much, way too much. But I mean, to get back to Frontline, I mean, it's been a hell of a ride. We've been in for 3 years. We've raised over $25,000 for charities. have every intention in the next 3 years to match that, if not exceed it. I think, our 10-year plan is probably $100,000.
There you go.
I think
That's a good goal.
realistically, I think $100,000 over a 10-year period is our goal for overall. And it's big and it's giant and it's out there, but what the hell?
Go for it. Hey, you're already committed.
Hey, stranger things have happened.
We never thought we'd raise 25,000. So what's another 75? You're already a quarter way there. But
why not?
Yeah, man. So it's just we've like I said, we've been lucky. I'm so glad we got you on the first one. It sucks that we haven't got you since then.
Hey, brother, the business, I used the analogy in a previous episode for something completely different, but I think it applies here too. There's no ABC road in wrestling. There's A, and then there's all sorts of spider webs and different side streets and roads that you'll go down. Who knows when our paths will cross again? But I look forward to the time when it does, because I had a blast going up there working with you.
I will promise you it will be you coming to me and not the other way around. My road days are over.
Oh, man. Well, that's fine.
I'm 37, brother. I'm about I'm about to be 38 here in the summer, but I look at it as like I probably got 2, maybe 3 left. Then we'll shut her down. Then it'll be about that time to go home and let the young guys do all the cool stuff and just be the old guy, be the old Ed Schumann that just sits in the corner smoking a cigarette and be like, I don't like it, babe. You gotta do something else.
I have drawn so many lines in the sand just over the last 6 years alone.
Oh, I believe it. I never did. I never wanted to, man. For when you talk about ending your career and stuff, but I mean, I look at it now and it's kind of like it's weird. It's like all my friends are dead. It's kind of like the running joke. It's like Tristan's gone. Tristan's gone, and Brandon and I don't really Conway and I don't really work together anymore. And Sadist left, and then. Chase is gone, my brother. And so it's like, and then there's more of my friends that are going to be leaving this year and into next year. And it's just kind of like, oh, my friends are dead. It's weird. It's very awkward. Dead. And now being in a position where I saw this great quote. I don't know if you guys watch TV a whole lot, but I was watching an episode of Sons of Anarchy. And I just remember I was watching FX. I was randomly it was on and
I've got to finish that series.
And there was a line that they said in there, which was the guy Jax Teller in the story talking about how he was having a hard time struggling with being a boy to his boys and making leadership decisions.
Right.
And in that show, he says the line, "It's harder than you'll ever know to be a brother when you have to make the decisions of a father." And I think through my second time around, I'm learning that especially. I think I learned that more than anything is, as it went from me being just a wrestler to being a locker room leader to being a booker to now, being an owner and a promoter and a booker and everything, and running 2 different companies and doing ring rentals and finishing a movie and training young kids and like, plate's full, man. I'm juggling. But I think that's the biggest thing I've learned in this second time around is there's no way that it'll ever be the way that it used to be. I'll never have, those brotherhood days or their boy days. Cause that was our time. And it's
right.
We're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. And, we had a hell of a good time. And, I look forward, and it's okay though. Like I find it so much more rewarding to see what my son does now. He's just starting his career. He's 2 years in. He's been wrestling since he's been in a wrestling ring since he was, oh my God, since 2013, and he's about to be 18. So what is that? Like, yeah, since he was 10 years old, he's been in a wrestling ring. Every single time I go to a show, he sets up and tears down. And
there you
go. His successes and what he's doing, he just won his first championship last year. Being part of that with him was amazing and wonderful and a great moment. And, to see where he's going in the future is awesome. And then it's kind of funny because, as time goes on, I find way more joy and pleasure in writing and in producing stuff and, behind the scenes work. And, it's just overall storytelling, and it's really cool to kind of be where I'm at now. So it's not like the last time. Like when I left the first time in wrestling, it very much felt like something got taken away. This is very much, I'm winding down. I will not wrestle past 41. I promised myself that. I promised myself 40, but I just realized there's too many other guys I gotta get in my schedule before.
Right.
I go
just one
away.
more. Just one more. Just one more.
And I want to make sure. I want to make sure that there's certain people that I've never worked, and certain people that I most certainly want to work one more time. And it's okay. Winding down now is cool. Like it's not like it is. There's no sense of loss with this. It's very much almost like anticipating a graduation of, hey man, in a couple of years, you can relax and just run your shows and have a good time. You don't got to carry nothing. You got to be, in there just throwing around with the young guys. You can just kind of have your moment and just be chill. And that's exciting for me now. It's not. I remember leaving in 10 and just feeling an instant amount of dread and regret and hating it, and thinking like, God, what was the last 5 years for? And I poured all my heart and soul into this, and I didn't make it. Like, what does that make me? Am I a failure? And there's a lot of shit to kind of throw on a guy, that's 27 years old, hasn't figured his life out yet, has a baby with a woman that he's married to and loves, and has another one on the way. I mean, that's a lot of shit to be on a guy's plate, and so this time around it's so much nicer. There's so much more peace with it. It's almost like it's going to be fun, and like I said, not here for a long time, but here for a good one, and I'm gonna have a hell of a good time before I leave.
Yeah,
and
I feel like it's good to kind of have your own exit strategy, like go out on your own terms.
I don't think we ever had that, though. If you really think about it now, we're in kind of unprecedented waters. So many guys, and I think that's the biggest thing that I want to help in wrestling. I want to help guys transition out. There's so many guys we have in pro wrestling that just get put out to pasture. Nobody ever talks to them, and there's a wealth of knowledge from a generation that is being forgotten and lost.
Oh, I feel that
because it sucks so bad. And I wish there was something we could do. I hope you guys do it on these podcasts. I hope you guys get guys like Steve Stone on, and Brendan Blaze, and Jimmy Blaze. I mean, I hope you guys get a ton of people on. Matt Nix. I hope you guys get all these people on the Ego Fantastico. I mean, God, the list goes on and on. I mean, there's a ton of people that you guys could get all this wealth of knowledge from. And unfortunately, we live in a business and an industry where once your physical
time is out.
Once your physical contributions are no longer required, you're kind of just put out the pasture. And I'm lucky that I have guys that are at the end of their careers that are on that work with me behind the scenes, and these are guys that make my job so much easier. And I really hope that we wind up being in a position where where wrestling companies have committees again. I think it would be huge. I think it would be great to have a booker who has final say on everything, but then to have 3 or 4 guys be his sounding board, be guys that he can trust, be guys that have the same type of vision as him, be guys that can sit there, and when he has a shit idea and it sucks, can stand up, put their hand up in the air and go, this isn't going to work. And it's the best thing I've done, going back to, because long story short, left Wisconsin Pro Wrestling. Ownership changed over. The guy who owns it now is a really great friend of mine. He politely asked me to come back and was very generous in bringing me back. And, we've been rocking and rolling with that as well ever since. So we have this wonderful partnership between Wisconsin Professional Wrestling and Frontline Pro. And, this time around, it's a ton of fun, and it's way easier because, I'm working with somebody I can trust. And this is a good dude. But like I said, it's so funny because I find more joy in, creating new things, creating new tag teams, creating new storylines, creating new matches. We have a match now in Frontline Pro that's exclusive, that's going to debut at Rob Van Dam, which is a super tag match, which is a championship match. And this can only happen in championship matches, but all tag teams for Frontline Pro have 3 guys, the 2 main members as well as an alternate. In super tag matches, the alternate can be tagged in to replace one of the first 2 legal men for the rest of the contest. It can only be used one time throughout the entire match.
Yeah, like a pinch hitter.
Once the man inside of the ring tags out for the super tag, that man must go to the back. He is no longer in the match. The person who has taken the super tag now assumes full responsibility for that partner. This is only done in tag team matches. No one else is doing this. It's an exclusive Frontline Pro. And this is the type of thing we're trying to do, to think outside of the box in order to make Frontline Pro different and to make it something that is an attraction and is something that you have to go see one time, because it's not like the other stuff you go see.
I am a big fan of tag team wrestling. It's my favorite type of wrestling to watch.
Yep.
And sadly, across the board, tag wrestling has either gone by the wayside or has undergone a metamorphosis to where it's not exactly tag wrestling so much as it is a glorified fatal four-way at times. And
that's
I
the beautiful
love
thing.
good tag wrestling.
That's the beautiful thing. We just started our tag division on this last show. We crowned our first ever tag team champions. Our tag belts are rich with history. I am very proud to say that we have Reg Parks tag belts, handcrafted by Reg Parks himself. Which for a lot of the viewers or anybody who doesn't know who Reg Parks is, he was responsible for all World Wrestling Federation and Worldwide Wrestling Federation titles from 1965 until I believe it was 05. I think it was a 40-year contract he had with Vince Senior.
I think so.
Something about that line. And then McMillan took over in 05 and because Parks was done. Well, these tag belts we have are part of the last runs that Reg himself worked on. His name is literally branded into the leather as crafted by Reg Parks, and it's his signature. So that's a hell of a lineage, for those tag belts.
Reggie Park belts, man, those things are superb.
And
yes,
it's due to the podcast that Conrad Thompson does that I discovered that there is a culture that are big into championship wrestling belts, and that is the big name.
I will never get rid of these belts. They will stay.
Nor should you.
I will will them away to whoever my greatest great grandkid is when I'm dead.
There you go.
But they will never, ever, ever. I mean, it's so rare. And you're right. And I think bringing tag team wrestling to Frontline, it took a long time for us. You have to remember, we've been around for 3 years. We've never had a tag division. It was a lot of trying to get a company off of the ground, having year 1 and 2 go so well, almost to the point where like we didn't have a chance to catch our breath, to being shut down for almost all of year 3. I think we got 4 shows in before everything shut down. And that was our year. And then now just coming back for the beginning of, to end year 3 basically, and to go into year 3, it's kind of like we're finally kind of getting our footing back, or finally getting back on our stuff. And luckily for me, I have this wonderful lady right here, who has brought us a completely restored version of our Reg Parks belts.
It's not done yet.
It's not completely done yet.
I still have to shine the leather and.
But as of now, just to give you guys an idea of what these bad boys look like.
Oh man,
there they are.
Absolutely gorgeous with all the wonderful flags. And then, like I said, right here on the end is inscribed. You probably can't see it, but right there.
It's faint, but it's there.
Crafted by Reg Parks. And that's something, man. But now we have this one. I'm lucky to have a great partner in my wife. She's very creative. We came up with a great tag team called the Dream Warriors, which is comprised of Quinn Whittick and Skylar Evans. They are our tag team champions right now. They're doing great things. We have great teams like Culture Nation, which is going to take form. And the beautiful thing is we made our own tag teams. We didn't just go find other tag teams that are popular other places. Now, don't get me wrong. We're going to have those teams. We're going to have teams like Country Air and the Dojo of Pain and Valhalla Rising, which are very prominent in Wisconsin. The N-words will be up for us, I'm sure, more than once, and they have been with us before in the past. Matt Nix and Castro, we'll have those guys up again here in the future.
Those two.
There's a lot of cool tag stuff we're going to do, but what I think is very different about ours, besides the concept of the super tag, is the fact that we literally have a complete mix of created tag teams that are Frontline exclusive, as well as a compilation of the best tag teams in the Midwest to take those tag teams on. And I think that makes us very different. I think it gives it an old school feel. I love that all of our tag teams are uniform. They match in gear, and it's not just two guys thrown together. They all look the same. Like there's a unified, and
They're
I
a
think that's the
team.
biggest. Exactly. I think that's the biggest part of what's missing in tag wrestling is the team aspect.
Yep.
I made a career off of doing tag wrestling. Without Chase, I mean, where would I be? I mean, we won 10 titles together in 4 different states. I mean, we got to wrestle for the NWA World Tag Team Championships at one point in time. Tag wrestling is super close to my heart, but I never wanted to do it unless we had the avenue to make it the best that it could possibly be. And everything just kind of fell into place, and we got really lucky. And my wife had great ideas for tag teams for a few years, and we kind of went back and looked at her ideas, and Dream Warriors was kind of out there and was a big thing we wanted to do. And TW3 came to us with the Culture Nation idea, which is very much our version of the Nation of Domination. I have no shame in saying that. It's they're a great team. I think Rampage Santana, who's out of the Ken Anderson Academy camp in Minneapolis, TW3, who's been around for 15 years in Wisconsin and the Midwest, along with Redis Atlas, who's a National Guardsman actually. And is literally 3% body fat, but almost 250 pounds. He's sculpted. Man.
Jesus.
There's a reason his last name is Atlas. His muscles have muscles. That's all I can tell you. And then Rockin' Rivera, which is a very cool, outspoken dude. I just got to wrestle Rockin' on our last show for the very first time, and he's definitely up there, along with Whittick and Evans, as like young guys that I think are gonna do something special. I think we have this wonderful youth movement right now in pro wrestling. We're very lucky, especially in Wisconsin and in Illinois and in Minnesota. The academy does such a great job up there with guys like JDX, and Top Flight from AEW came from there. There's Coda Jacobs, who's our heavyweight champion, came from there. Along with Rampage Santana, Riley Jackson, Levi Cruz. These are all guys that have went and worked overseas with the Knight family and have been on 205 Live. We are, you have all these young guys there. You go to Wisconsin, you have the Skylar Evans and the Aaron Arsenals and the Ragnars, and there's just so many of them that are doing great things. You go down to Illinois, you got guys like Joe Alonzo who try to break the internet every week, which is interesting as hell to watch. I definitely watch all of them. He's very controversial.
Not for everybody.
He is not for everybody, but I applaud the kid for having brass balls and just going for it. It's a hard line to draw in the sand to say I'm not going to be for everybody on purpose. I'm going to be for the few people, for the diehards who love me and need me, and I'm going to stick to that. I'm going to make that my bread and butter, and that's a bold business move. But I think if anybody was going to bet on himself, it would be Joe. So, and if anybody can make it work, I think it would be Joe. So, but like I said, we're in this wonderful youth movement right now. So it's you got guys like Cal Hero doing great stuff, and now going down to OVW and working there, and it's been interesting. So.
Yeah, man. So I'm gonna be blunt with everybody listening. I had an itinerary set up for this, just things to talk about. Actually, no, we hit a lot of it organically without me having to really guide the boat at all. And
I've done this before.
Yeah. And I will share, messages with Jesse back and forth. And we just kind of all said, this is perfect as is. This is organic. Let's just let this ride. And this has definitely been one of my favorite episodes already, just because of everything that just came out. And I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your, clearly you're a very busy man. You're wrestling, you're running your own promotion. You're a husband, a father, and that's a hard act to juggle. And I just want to thank you for coming on. We definitely want to have you back. Before we go though, I gotta say that you've definitely been an inspiration to me, because when I first got in, I didn't know a whole lot of people that had a similar background as me. Yeah. I didn't know a lot of veterans that were in the business. So when I met you, I was just like, oh, dude, right away. So definitely just, on a personal level, I just want to say thank you for the inspiration that you've given me, because I have said it on more than one occasion. You're one of the toughest guys I've ever met. I don't know anybody that could have had the wherewithal to make it through that, and just, man, you're a hero.
No, I hate that word. No. I'm a lucky guy who was too stupid to die when he probably should have. That's what I'm. The hero talk, man. I'm just I appreciate it. I really do. I'll never consider myself one. I'll never call myself one. It was much more. I was an ordinary guy put in an extraordinary situation, and like I said, just had a massive horseshoe shoved up my ass and got lucky. And again, it doesn't happen with, I said it many times throughout this, but it doesn't happen without my wife. You have to remember that woman put me back together again. Like, she was the one who had to.
Crystal's a wonderful woman.
She had to feed me through a dab hob feeding tube through my nose and give me baths and help me walk. I can't tell you how many times I fell over on top of her because I couldn't hold myself up. Oh, that's hilarious stuff there. But no, I mean, it's, I'll never consider myself that word. I've had other people say it. I'll always appreciate it. It's always nice, but I was doing my job. I got paid to go do a job. I did it to the best of my ability, and things happened that weren't planned, and I just got lucky. So,
well, it has been an honor and a privilege to speak with you. And as I said, we will definitely have you on again. Jesse, before we depart, do you have any parting words for us?
Be gentle.
This should ring very true, because you've probably heard it. As I tell everybody, do not add to the population. Do not subtract to the population. Do not be the reason why we have a safety briefing on Monday.
Yes, there you go. Man, you don't know how close that is. That's pretty close. I mean, we all know how close that is. But
every single person in here signed a contract. Yep.
Yeah, but people hearing this right now have no idea what we're talking about. But man, if I had a nickel for every safety brief of don't be the reason we have a new standard operating procedure.
Or I can bring back certain PTSD by going, I just want to piggyback off what the commander said.
Yes, those are good too.
Military bearing goes out the door when you start piggybacking off the commander.
Yep.
and just remember, we have a sand table to make. It's 016 at 0600 in the dark.
Be there for the formation for that formation too, by the way.
Yes, be there at the formation for the formation at 3:30. Do not be late, and nothing, and no hands in your pockets.
Exactly.
Get your friggin' hands out of your pockets. It would behoove you to do that.
Ben, before we go, where can everybody keep up with you in Frontline?
Oh my God. Well, on Facebook, you can find us on Frontline Pro on Facebook. You can find myself at either my fan page, Ben Mccoy. You can just find me on my fan page, Ben Mccoy. If you were meant to be on my friends list, on my personal one, you would be. Like Jeremy. So anyways, you can find us there. You can find us on Twitter. Ben Mccoy 825 is my Twitter handle. Our Frontline Pro is Frontline Pro 1 on Twitter. And then we also have an Instagram. You can check that out. And then upcoming stuff we have, March 20th is our 3-year anniversary show, Call to Arms. It's also our 25th show in my hometown. We're raising funds for the Spencer Kids Group. And then it is on to April 3rd, Honor Bound, Stevens Point, Wisconsin, the Holiday Inn Convention Center, featured by myself versus Rob Van Dam, first time ever. We'll also be having Katie Forbes and Bill Alfonso in the house. So
right down the middle, baby.
We'll be able to hang out and have a good time with those guys. First and second rows are gone. All we have left is general admission. It is mask mandated. You have to have a mask on your person at all times coming to our shows. It's the Holiday Inn's rules, as well as I don't want anybody to get COVID, and I don't want to be the a-hole who had people get COVID because we didn't do the right stuff. We also will be having digital forehead checks, as well as hand sanitizer stations throughout the venue as well as socially distancing our chairs. In point, we'll be socially distancing our chairs where all the Odd rows are with odd chairs, rows are with even chairs, and people who come in groups have the ability to push their chairs together to give their neighbors more space.
There you go. All right. With that being said, this is the crew of Pop Goes the Zebra. Wishing you all a good night and have a pleasant evening.